Welcome to the Explainer, everyone. Today we're zooming way in to explore the microscopic blueprints of life itself by looking closely at the tiny building blocks that make up the natural world around us. So, you know how a towering oak tree can just sit there and literally make its own food out of thin air and sunlight, but we, and well, all other animals, absolutely cannot? It's not magic, right? The secret is actually locked away directly inside their cellular structure. We're going to break down exactly how these cellular machines work and why they are so perfectly designed for their specific environments. Here is our roadmap for today. 1. Meet the eukaryotic cells. 2. The great cell comparison. 3. Inside the plant cell. 4. Inside the animal cell. And 5. Why these differences matter. Section 1. Meet the eukaryotic cells. Okay, first things first. Both plants and animals are built from eukaryotic cells. Basically, this means they contain a true, distinct nucleus and membrane-bound organelles. It's a highly sophisticated cellular architecture. You can kind of think of a eukaryotic cell like a tiny, bustling, well-organized city where absolutely everything has its own specific, protected place and function. And you know, that city has some pretty solid common infrastructure. Both plant and animal cells have a cell membrane. Think of that as the flexible city limits. They've got cytoplasm filling up the interior space and a nucleus securely holding the DNA blueprint. Plus, they both rely heavily on mitochondria for their power, along with ribosomes, the endoplasmic reticulum, and the Golgi apparatus to build, package, and transport materials all over the place. These organelles perform similar, absolutely essential basic functions in both plants and animals just to keep the cells alive and thriving. Moving on to Section 2, the great cell comparison. Now, when we actually put these two side by side, it's wild to see how microscopic structure completely dictates survival. Plant cells have this rigid, fixed rectangular shape thanks to an added cell wall, whereas animal cells are round or kind of irregular. Plants have chloroplasts and one massive central vacuole. Animals, on the other hand, lack chloroplasts and just have tiny temporary vacuoles, but they boast things like centrioles and numerous lysosomes. Ultimately, it's these exact structural differences that explain why plants can make their own food through photosynthesis, while animals depend entirely on consuming other organisms. Section 3. Inside the plant cell. So let's look closer at plants. They have two major VIP structures you definitely won't find in animals. First up is the cell wall, which is made of a really tough material called cellulose. Picture it like a rigid, skeleton-like armor wrapped right around the outside of the cell membrane for ultimate support and protection. Second, we have the chloroplasts. These contain chlorophyll, which, yes, gives plants that classic green color, and they serve as these tiny solar-powered food factories. They're the exact spot where photosynthesis happens, practically magically turning sunlight into usable energy. And the contrast just keeps going when we look at their vacuoles. A plant cell uses one massive central vacuole, almost like a giant cellular water tower. It stores water, nutrients, and waste. But honestly, its most important job is maintaining what we call turgor pressure. This internal water pressure is literally what keeps the plant standing tall, so it doesn't just wilt over. Animal cells, well, on the flip side, they just need small, temporary vacuoles for basic, short-term storage. They simply don't need that massive internal water pressure to hold their shape. Section 4. Inside the animal cell. Okay, so while animal cells might lack those rigid cellulose walls and built-in solar panels, they come with their own highly specialized tools. For one, they have centrioles. These are super critical helpers during cell division, basically ensuring everything splits perfectly when the cell reproduces. They also have numerous lysosomes. You can think of lysosomes as a microscopic waste management and recycling plant, or actually, scratch that, maybe more like tiny cellular Pac-Men. They're constantly chomping down, breaking down waste materials and recycling worn-out organelles to keep the cell squeaky clean and fully functional. Now, because animals, and yeah, that includes us, have to consume other organisms for energy, we simply don't need chloroplasts. We don't need built-in food factories. And because animals already have skeletons, shells, or other complex structures for physical support, our individual cells just don't need that heavy, rigid cellular armor. We function perfectly fine without them. Which brings us to Section 5. Why these differences matter. You know, in biology, form always follows function. A plant absolutely needs chloroplasts to produce food because, well, it can't exactly walk over to a restaurant or hunt for a meal, right? And it needs that thick cell wall for rigidity and support so it can reach high up toward the sun to capture all that light. Animals, on the other hand, fundamentally require flexibility. Without a rigid cell wall holding us strictly in place, our dynamic cells can form muscles and tissues that allow us to run, swim, fly, and hunt. We rely heavily on numerous lysosomes to process the complex foods we eat, and we need centrioles to constantly replicate our flexible cells as we move around and grow. So let's quickly recap everything we've covered in today's explainer. Both plant and animal cells share that highly organized eukaryotic foundation, but structurally, they diverge perfectly to suit their wildly different lifestyles. Plant cells come equipped with a rigid cell wall, food-producing chloroplasts, and a large pressure-maintaining vacuole. Animal cells? They're built for action and consumption, featuring a flexible shape, numerous lysosomes for serious cellular cleanup, and centrioles to aid in active cell division. I really hope this breakdown made it easy and actually fun to understand the incredible differences between plant and animal cells. If you found this explainer helpful in grasping these concepts, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to BioLearnix. But hey, before you go, I want you to chew on this for a second. We've just mapped out exactly what these organelles are and who has them, but how exactly do these tiny microscopic structures chemically interact to power life itself? That's what we're going to dive into in our next explainer. Until then, keep questioning and keep learning.